Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol 2 is upon us. The mega fight, the rematch is here. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the psychology of the two men in the build up to the fight, how their training camps appear to have gone based on footage, what we learned from the first fight. I've done a lot of tactical videos on this already, but in summary, what I learned from the first fight, the changes I think the two men can make before making my final prediction about who's going to win this fight. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. Guys, we are here. Beterbiev Bivol 2. I thought we were never going to see this fight the first time, and yet here we are. We're seeing it twice within a matter of months, which is absolutely incredible. And I couldn't be more excited for it. It's an absolutely incredible card, as you all know. I made my video yesterday taking a look at Bivol coming in as the late replacement, and I'm actually very excited to see what he's going to weigh. I'm not going to have time to make a video about it, but if he's anything under 300 pounds, then it could be very exciting. But even with the extra weight, I was watching a Hatman video earlier, and he made a very good point, which is, if his cardio is good, if he was training and then he's gone to Congo and put a load of weight on, underneath that 300-pound stature could be a very good engine, could be a very good gas tank. And so then it makes it even more interesting. So no matter what, I'm excited for that fight, and fair play to Martin Bivol. I can't wait for it. But we're here to talk about Beterbiev and Bivol. And I feel like it's almost been forgotten about a little bit because of the drama in the build-up. It's been such a crazy build-up to the fight with all that chaos, with the undercard, with other fights falling through. But really, this will be the centerpiece. This is the boxing connoisseur's dream fight. These two guys, they'll both go down as legends. I have no doubt about it. But I think Bivol really needs the win here for his legacy and for his career. If he ends his career and he has back-to-back losses to Beterbiev, it's never going to look quite the same. So I'm going to start this video by saying I do believe the pressure is on Bivol to deliver here, big time. He needs to win this fight. Beterbiev, of course, will want to. I feel like he will be as determined to win this one because, and I'll get into this in a minute, but there's a key element about the way these two guys think. So stick around for me to mention that, because there is a thing that they both have in their psychology that makes them different from other fighters, that gives them that elite ability to perform on the highest level. Before I get into this one, guys, please bang a like on the video if you're enjoying this and all my content. Please subscribe to A Guy Called Henry if you want to get, notified and all that stuff. In fact, you should hit the notification bell. I've never asked people to do that, but apparently that's a good thing to do. So hit the notification bell and get your comments in the comment section below. This is your last chance. Let your prediction be known. Get your prediction in the comments below. So when I come on afterwards and I do my post-fight reaction, you can be like, Henry, I told you in the comments before the fight, I told you Bivol was going to win on points, or I told you Beterbiev was going to knock him out, or whatever your prediction is. Finally, don't forget to use my link to buy the fight on DAZN if you'd like to help support the channel. I'd really appreciate it. I get a small cut of the revenue, and it's a massive card, so why would you not want to buy it? That's the question I have to put to you. Now, I want to get straight into what the build-up has felt like this time around and the psychology of the two men. I was talking before about this elite mindset that they have, and I'm going to get into that in this section. So the build-up's been pretty low-key, pretty cordial. I think that the thing with these two guys is because they don't play mind games, because they aren't trash talkers, and because of Beterbiev's limited English, so I don't understand, he doesn't understand a lot of what's going on in these media days and these press conferences and stuff. We don't get loads out of him, but we got a bit more this time. And overall, I felt like, I'll start with Beterbiev. I feel like overall in the build-up to this one, he seemed a bit lighter, a bit more calm, and a bit happier. And I mean, he seemed calm the first time, so calmness definitely doesn't come into it, but maybe he seemed a little bit more intense the first time. He does seem to have relaxed, and he just seems a bit more jovial this time. And I can only imagine that even if it's a 1% difference, he's going to feel a little bit more relaxed and a little bit happier, knowing he's already got that statement win over Bivol, and he is the undisputed champion. He's achieved that dream, that lifetime goal. And he's old as well for a fighter, so getting to that stage as late as he has, he probably thought at times it was never going to happen. But for sure in this build-up, he seemed good. He seemed focused nonetheless. I don't take his seemingly more happy demeanor as meaning that he's taken his eye off the ball even one bit. I think he's absolutely on it mentally, and I think he absolutely wants to win this rematch. And this is and I'm going to touch on this now. And Bivol also has this, and we'll talk about that with Bivol too. But the reason these two are as good as they are, the reason that they are the elite of the sport, is because they have this mindset, and it comes up time and time again in the way that they talk. All these two think about is the quality of the performance. And I saw an interview with Beterbiev's coach after Mark Ramsey, after the fight. It was recently, actually. And he said that after the fight, I went to him, and he was like, this is our biggest win ever. We're undisputed, but I'm not happy. And Beterbiev turned to him and said, I'm not happy either, because they both knew the performance could have been better. And likewise, I heard Bivol talking about how he felt in the ring afterwards, because someone asked him, did you think you got the decision? And he was like, I didn't think about if I got the decision. I thought about all the things I did right and all the things I did wrong. And then it's up to the judges. But straight away, he's thinking about all the things he did wrong. That's the key part of that statement. In doing so, you can address those things. If you know what you did wrong, if you're super self-critical and you analyze yourself down to a T, you know what needs to be done to go and win a rematch. For Beterbiev, I think he'll be thinking more and more about a knockout this time. I think he'll want that knockout. I think he'll want that stoppage. I think he might need it, to be honest with you. I'll get into why in my tactical breakdown, but I think he might need a stoppage in this one. And for Bivol, same thing. But, you know, he's also said this time there's a bit more. He wants revenge now. It's not just about undisputed anymore. It's about taking his first loss. And so I'm not going to say he's more motivated than Beterbiev, but there's another ingredient in the mix. There's another psychological element that might just push him that little bit further. It might just be the thing he needs to do a couple things tactically that I'm going to say he needs to do later in this video. So we will get into that. Now, before I get into the tactics and the things I think went well, went badly in the first fight, and things I think they need to change, we should talk about their training very quickly. Because I had a look at some of the training videos, and whilst they don't give too much away, those videos, it was interesting to see the varying camps. I mean, I think the stuff I saw on DAZN, and I never got around to watching the Daily Mail stuff, so people should go and check that out because I've heard it's incredible. Incredible insight compared with the DAZN stuff. But with the DAZN stuff, they were at completely different stages of camp when they were being filmed. But camp for both seemed in pretty good spirits. And I think that it's a classic case of a horrible boxing cliche, no stone unturned. They will be doing everything they can and everything necessary to get ready for this fight and to make sure that they win this fight. And I don't think, and they weighed in, they both looked in incredible shape, as ever. The big difference this time, and this is where I'll talk about this thing, is the knee for Beterbiev. I think this time, he'll have been able to do things in training camp to get to the right physical condition faster. And I think that could have a massive factor in this fight. Another thing that will be really interesting to see is how he deals with the quick turnaround, because normally he has about a year between fights. This time, he's got a much shorter turnaround in a matter of, I mean, what is it? Sort of, they fought, was it November when they fought? September? So 4 or 5 months. It's a quicker turnaround for him than ever before. And that might actually favor him at his age, or it might be a hindrance. But either way, the knee should be in better shape this time. And I think he'll be able to press things later on in the fight. And we'll get into that in the next section. But basically, nothing really was revealed to us in those videos. They'll both have had great camps, and they'll both have been working on what they needed to implement the right tactics, which is where we'll get into the tactics, funnily enough. So in that first fight, they both did things brilliantly. I mean, they contrasting styles, and I think that both from a similar schooling, but both use it in a very different way. Bivol with the fast feet on the back foot, sometimes coming out on the front foot and being the aggressor, but what I thought the main thing he did well was the ability to move around the ring and then stop and bounce side to side and then fire off fast combinations. He also did a good job at times of neutralizing the Beterbiev jab, dipping under it, catching and throwing, and firing fast counters. I felt that was a very good strategy for him. The problem you've got with Beterbiev is that he can take a lot, and that's part of this conversation. Can Bivol actually hurt him? I don't know. I don't know, but we'll get into that when I talk about the changes that could be made. But overall, I thought Bivol boxed really, really well. And I'll get into the changes in a moment. For Beterbiev, a similar thing. I mean, I think that, again, you saw his style. It was after, I thought he gave the first few away a little bit. The first round was extremely close. I don't remember who I scored it for. 2 and 3, I felt he gave away. But after that, he got his double jab going. He got moving properly. And I think he will want to start a bit quicker this time. Now he's got the measure of Bivol. But he also has to be careful with that, because coming on faster at the beginning when Bivol's fresh, it might not be possible, because Bivol is such a good mover, such a good fast counterpuncher. The other thing Beterbiev did unbelievably well was just close the distance. It was so easy for him. And I thought it might be with that pendulum step and that dip that he uses when he's just a couple yards out from his opponent. He dips down, and from there he can throw a variety of different shots. And that was key for him in getting his work off. And if you want to go and check all this out, you can go and look at my tactical breakdown videos. I'll put the links in the description. The changes that are required for this rematch, I'll start with Bivol. I think that Bivol needs to hold his feet a little bit more. He was on the back foot a bit too much, later on in the fight in particular, and Beterbiev was coming on too strong, and there was moments when he needed to hold his feet and throw something. But it is also that factor of Beterbiev seems to be kind of inevitable with his power, with his punch resistance. It's tough. It's hard to keep him off you. It's really difficult, and I don't envy that task at all. He's super heavy-handed. He doesn't have to... He's not your classic power puncher where it's like if you move, they can't really hurt you because they have to set their feet. With Beterbiev, he doesn't really need to set his feet to generate a lot of power. He's quite relaxed with his shots, and they just flow, and he's so heavy-handed that he doesn't need to load up loads to really hurt you. We saw the damage he caused just hitting Bivol through the glove in the fight with the swollen hand, with the swollen face, the bruising on the face. And I think that for Bivol, he has to try and use more slips. He has to try and control the range a little bit more. I know it's easier said than done, but that high guard is actually not that helpful because he still gets damaged so badly that by the end of the fight, it's not great. And he will have to use a high guard from time to time without question, but that being his default defensive style isn't great. I think he needs to be a bit longer. I think he's even acknowledged this himself in an interview. So it's a really interesting one. I think the main changes for Bivol are hold your feet a little bit more if you can. If he can possibly be any fitter, be a bit fitter because I think it was a stamina issue towards the end. You can move, but punching as well is tough, very hard, especially when you're being punched a lot. Traditionally, to slow down someone, you say go to the body more, but I remember watching the Vosdik fight and the number of right hands to the body that Beterbiev ate in that fight, and he just took them. I think he's very strong to the body, Beterbiev. Not to say you should neglect it, but I'm not sure really investing in the body will make a huge amount of difference with him. And I think Vosdik's quite a sizable puncher compared with Bivol. But I think the main thing is he has to hurt Beterbiev more. That's really the main thing. He has to find a way to deter him from coming forward quite so much. And that might just be, as I say, a fitness thing, increasing his output a bit. Or maybe you sit down on your shots a little bit more this time. To be fair, I'm giving you these changes. It was 115, 113 for me for Beterbiev. It's small adjustments. It's just, I'm not saying change your style. I'm saying do certain things that I'm talking about a little bit more. And the way that you might do them a little bit more, it might be a mindset tweak. It might be you're just a bit fitter. That, it could be understanding how close the first one was and realizing I don't need to do that much more. It's just every, third time I was doing, too much back footwork, I need to just come forward again or whatever it is. Small tweaks, very small. Third time's probably too many. But you know what I'm saying? Subtle tweaks. It doesn't need to be loads. So the thing for Beterbiev here, for me, that he needs to change is he needs to cut off the ring better. Oh, that's actually, I should say this before I go on with Beterbiev. The other thing Bivol needs to do, and before I forget, and it reminded me because I'm starting to talk about Beterbiev, is that Beterbiev dip. He has to deal with that because that's how Beterbiev gets a lot of his attacks off, landed a lot of shots to the gloves. There was once or twice I can remember where Bivol really countered it effectively, stepped in, threw shots, got away, or he controlled the range enough that when Beterbiev did the dip, he was actually closer to Bivol than he was thinking he was going to be. So, but Bivol was in range to fire off a counter. So with that dip, I think that Bivol needs to control, or the range controls everything here. That is the number one thing Bivol needs to get right. And part of that is controlling that dip. The way he dips his legs, he steps in. That's when you need to either get out or get in. Getting out means you're on the back foot a bit too much. So I think he needs to get in there a little bit more, which is dangerous because Beterbiev inevitably will land a couple more shots from you doing that. But it's better than you standing there and just taking those heavy shots to a high guard or indeed clean shots to the head or the body. Now, for Beterbiev, sorry, to get on with his part, I think this time he needs to get his jab going a bit earlier, but he also needs to double it because I think that sometimes Bivol was able to get his head off and counter quite well. And I think by doubling it or, jabbing and then throwing a shot to the body, that will help with that dip down that Bivol was doing. And he did adjust to that, Beterbiev, to be fair. So perhaps that won't be as effective this time. But the big thing for me is making sure you're cutting off the ring effectively. They did admit, Mark Ramsey did admit in the build-up to this fight that Bivol's lateral movement was better than they expected. He was good going in straight lines as they predicted, but his side to side, and I think they were talking about that bouncy side to side phase when he would then stop and fire off combos. He said that was better than they expected. So I think that in those scenarios, Beterbiev needs to time it correctly. He needs to not rush in because that's when he gets caught. He needs to attack from angles. He needs to fire body shots. And I just generally think cutting off the ring in those scenarios a little bit better will definitely be in his favor. Again, it's all about range control. It's all about ring generalship. Who can impose that on the other man? I also think, and tactically, to be honest, I don't think Beterbiev needs to change that much. I think the big difference here is going to be that knee. And I think it's the fact that he can turn the screw a bit earlier. Because tactically, I'd say he needs to turn the screw a bit earlier. And this time, I think he will be able to. But also, I think that Bivol will be more prepared for what that feels like. And so I think it might look similar. It might actually look similar down the stretch. But I don't have too many notes for Beterbiev. I just think really cutting off the ring a little bit better in that side-to-side bouncy scenario where he fires those fast combos. That is the big thing for me. And, I think just starting a bit quicker too. Getting that jab, that double jab, firing a bit earlier, getting those body shots going a bit earlier. I think all of that for me is essential. So finally, I've got to make my prediction. And it's tough. The first fight I predicted Beterbiev by stoppage. And I can see how Bivol won that first fight. 115, 113 either way, 114 a draw. I would have been fine with any of those scores. But I did have Beterbiev winning. And a big part of me thinks that this is Bivol's time. I think the extra factors, the extra ingredients, the extra motivation, a big part of me thinks that he'll make the changes. He's a little bit younger. He's a bit fresher, potentially a bit more adaptable at this stage in his career. It feels like Bivol's rematch But at the same time, I think that knee is a massive... I mean, the knee was the biggest doubt for me the first time around. I was convinced Beterbiev would get to him the first time, and he wasn't able to. So I think, with the fact that I think Bivol will be a little bit more aggressive in this fight, and the fact that Beterbiev's going to have had a full, proper training camp, in theory, that knee should be a lot better, close to 100%. He said in an interview at Ade, he said, yeah, close to perfect. I'm going to go for Beterbiev again, but this time I'm going for Beterbiev by stoppage. I don't think it will come early by any means. I think we're looking around 10 to 12. But that is my prediction. I think he's going to stop Bivol. I think he's going to take him out this time. I think you'll just see him going through the gears a bit earlier this time. And I think that Bivol will, strategically and tactically in his mind, have had the idea to hold his feet a bit more. And I think that when he realizes when he's trying to do that, but Beterbiev's got a bit more about him this time in terms of the intensity he can go out for longer, I think that will tell. This is me being extremely specific, but I can also fully see a way, and I fully accept that Bivol can win this fight. I don't see him stopping Beterbiev. I think Beterbiev's too tough, but I can definitely see Bivol winning this one on points. Ultimately, for me, I think that whoever wins this one will fully deserve it. I hope, and that's the biggest hope, right? You just don't want a robbery. You don't want judges to make bad decisions. There's so much to look forward to after this one for both men. Whoever wins, whoever loses. Everybody wants to see Beterbiev Benavidez. What a damn fight that would be. And I think if Buatsi can get through, a Bivol Buatsi fight could be interesting, but anyone against Benavidez at that weight would be interesting to me. And there's just a lot to be done still in boxing. So even a Canelo Beterbiev fight, I mean, I don't think Canelo would want any part of that. But yeah, so much to look forward to. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please get your predictions in below. Do subscribe, hit that notification bell, like the video. And as I always say, on to the next one.